Good morning and welcome back. It's Monday, and if you're like me, you're off to work again. Something we're all trying to get out of. So hey, real quick, I'm just gonna ask you, if they built a time machine, what would you go back in time and do? So I get all kinds of crazy, answers, and people think about money immediately and all that stuff. But you know what? I'm just going to give mine to you right up front. And yes, it's a little bit funny, but I've said it for years and I believe it. That way, if you don't want to continue on with the video, you don't have to. But I would go back in time. I would find whoever it was who came up with the 5-day work week, 2 days off, and I would kick his ass. And I know that, people are going to say, oh, you're not being serious. I am serious. I just might off him. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. The idea that we have to work 5 days to get 2 days off, or work a year to get 2 weeks off, that's ridiculous. So, this is going to be part 2 to my video about advice to millennials from a Gen Xer. Now, I'm talking with my wife. I guess I kind of messed up here, so I don't follow it too heavily. I just consider millennials like my kids. They're all in their 20s. But I guess some of these videos now, it's Gen Z that some of these comical videos are coming from. So I guess I'm going to have to change it and say, okay, millennials, you're right. I wholeheartedly believe that you're right. Gen Z, on the other hand, those videos that I'm watching, I seriously think that you're just whining. You're still young enough that you can do something about it. So is millennial. But for Gen Z to get out there and just scream and yell, out in the parking lot at Walmart, that kind of thing. Okay, you're just whining. Do something about it. So, the reason I called this, if you could have a time machine, what would you do? Now I want to be very upfront, because this isn't going to be, technical. Like, I don't want anybody getting in the comments saying, yeah, but if you change this, then, over the course of time, this wouldn't happen. And okay, I get that. No, let me be clear. I like where my life is at, personally. Yeah, I don't want to be at my job. Who does? It's a job. And that's why I'm working to do this, and working on the chili prepper and the seeds and everything else I'm doing. I wouldn't change certain, even though I would say, I wouldn't have gotten married young, that kind of thing. If I hadn't done that, then I wouldn't have had my son, and by all means, I wouldn't want it that way either. So I'm not saying what it would cause by changing it. That's not what I'm talking about. But I kind of want to give you an idea in today's world, with what I know now, what I would do different, and especially with what I'm learning. Now, I'm not an expert. Obviously, I haven't figured it all out. I'm not rich. I'm not wealthy. I'm finally been in a place in my life to where I'm comfortable for what I want. And and that's what I want everybody to be. I want you to get to where you're comfortable in the kind of life you want. So I don't need some big, rich, elaborate life to be comfortable and to be happy. I need a big garden, and that'll make me very happy. But in today's day and age, things have changed. Like I talked about in the last video. For instance, my dad, I think, don't quote me, I think he was 20 years old. And he started working for Ridge Tool. So the tools they carry in Home Depot. And he started on the wrench line, building the wrenches, manually building the wrenches. Now, he stayed there until he retired not long ago. I mean, he worked like crazy. I know because when I got out of the Army, I went and worked there for a little while, and it sucked. It was not my kind of work. But let me tell you, those days are gone. I mean, from 20 to, I forget how old he was when he retired, 65, 67. I'm just throwing it in that area. I mean, I know he was that age. So he busted his behind. He moved up the ranks, and it took its toll on his body, and things aren't like that anymore. So the number one thing now I kind of, I learned from them watching, and grandparents and you name it, and I followed in those footsteps. Went to the military and flat destroyed my knees and back, and got out and went and worked in factories, and again physically just hurt myself my whole life, and I'm paying for it now. That, like I talked about before, that meme about I can do as much as 800 milligrams of ibuprofen or Motrin will allow is absolutely true with me. So I don't want to see people do that anymore. I don't think that's needed anymore. But my oldest son and I were having a conversation a few weekends ago, and I've been studying like crazy about all the YouTube stuff, and that's what caused me to create this channel. And I was telling him what I think he should do, because he kept giving me advice on my channel, because I had just started. I think I told you last time, he likes the funny military stories. I don't talk about the bad military stories, just so you know. Until finally I said to him, why don't you do it? He's young enough. He's in his 20s. And he was talking about, I'm going to mess this up. I don't know. It's not archaeology. Is it archaeology that, going out and finding bones and studying out, out in the wilderness, that kind of thing. That's what if I got it wrong, sorry. But he was saying that, he really likes that, but he's not an expert. He's not educated on it. He hasn't gone to school, that kind of thing. And I tried to explain to him, people will watch the journey, video it, make outings where you go out with your friends and you find artifacts, or you find the fossils and that that kind of thing. You don't have to be that. You don't have to go to college and get that degree and be that, because in all honesty, once you do all that and you get there, that might not be what you like. But in today's day and age, you can actually have fun with your friends, get a group, together, document it, put it on YouTube, and there's so many different ways you could go with that to make a great living, and you didn't kill your body. You'll get to be my age and still be fit and be able to move just like you, well, maybe not just like you did when you were young, but this is just an example. So, number one, I would work more with my mind and not my body, because trust me, you pay for it when you get older. Number two, I'm just going to bring back what I said before, and I would do anything possible not to work for somebody. I'm not going to make somebody rich for the rest of my life. I learned it late in life, and I'm sorry it took that long. I mean, I've tried different things along, to get away from the 9 to 5 working for somebody else, and nothing ever really worked to get me away. I've had some success, but it wasn't enough that it was able to get me out of it. So how do you do that? First thing, especially if you're Gen Z, hopefully you haven't done this if you're Gen X, don't take on debt. Stay away from credit cards. Stay away from all that stuff. If you don't have the money for it, you probably don't need it. Now, I know how hard that is. I did not follow that advice, and that's why I know. and I spent years paying for it. That's the number one thing. Do not take on a ton of debt. Now, another one, don't feel bad about living with your parents longer than what friends think you need to. My oldest, she was quick, and she wanted to quickly get out of the house and move in with her friends in an apartment. That didn't work. I told her not to get into debt. She did. That didn't work. She's paying for it. My youngest listened. He paid cash for his truck. He doesn't have credit cards. He lives in our rental house. He put money away. He's not having to pay for it. Those are two prime examples. And I'm not saying, we all mess up, trust me. I was very much like my oldest. I wanted the flashy car. I went in the military when I was young. I wanted to impress the girls, all that stuff. And of course, back then, like when I started working, it was like $3.15 an hour, Do everything you can not to take on debt. Start off with a job that you can pay the bills with, but a job that will allow you to pursue your passion. I highly recommend doing this and being on YouTube with whatever you're doing. I don't care if you're like me, you're a maintenance man, you can create a maintenance channel. If you're working on cars, you can create a how-to on working on cars. If you want to go out and find fossils, you can do that too. So you can do anything on YouTube and social media, and then you can expand from that and create a clothing line and create all kinds of stuff to sell and a website. I would highly recommend that route, but whatever you do, try to do it for yourself, not for someone else. Otherwise, you're going to get to 50 years old like me, and you're going to regret not working with your mind and punishing your body your whole life. All right, I'm back here and got to go in and punish my body some more. So I'll see you in the morning. This is Steve, Chili Pepper Channel. We'll see you in the morning.